we have Dr. Fernanda Camargo. She is our equine extension specialist at the university, and she has a lovely presentation for you all. And Dr. Camargo, whenever you are ready, I will hand it over. Just make sure name county's in the chat box, and I'm gonna turn my video off just so we make sure everything stays running smooth.
Okay, so hello everyone. Let me see if I can share my screen. Mary Jane, you're gonna have to make me co-host.
I'm just realizing that I did not do that. Yes, there we go. Okay, sorry about that.
That's okay. Okay. Can you guys see this?
Yes, looks great.
Yes.
Looks great. Okay, so today we are going to be talking about the anatomy of riding. So as you know, we all know, we have horses generally because we like to ride, right? And sometimes we don't always understand why some people are, you know, more successful than others. And yes, there are horses, there's different quality of horses that do different things, and horses that are built. If you're part of the judging group, you also will see that the horses are built to perform different things, right? But today we're going to talk about how we, as riders, affect the way that the horse moves by the way that we move, okay, by the way that we sit on the saddle. So this person here, she's my friend. This horse here was my mare at the time, and she was going, you know, well, looked like, and then she didn't give any, you know, presentation whatsoever that she didn't feel like jumping this particular jump here. And, you know, the person was, I guess, just riding a little bit on the sloppy side and just went right on top of the neck of the horse, right? So, and she, her name is Sarah, is a lovely, lovely rider. And then they went back to the show and became, you know, the circuit champions during that day. But their first go around was a little rough. So, and this is just showing, you know, like the worst of it all. But you know, it's not necessarily every time this way. So what's important for us to understand is that we are built in different shapes and sizes. So people are built in different shapes and sizes, and horses are built different shapes and sizes. So, but that being said, there are certain things that we just have to learn regardless. It's universal. It doesn't matter your shape or size. It doesn't matter the horse shape or size, because if we are on top of this horse, if we are just driving you know, something behind like a carriage, we're talking about a different you know, way of going. But when we are riding these horses, it doesn't really matter, because we're all built different. So there is hope, okay? So if we think we don't ride well because we're too short, we're too tall, no, this is not the case. We just need to learn how to ride that particular horse, you know, any horse. We need to sit correct, right? So the horse is a living being, right? The horse has a brain. I think everybody here, does everybody ride? First of all, just say a yes or a no, or just put on the chat there if you, yes, right? So a lot of us do. So we all know that horses, you know, they are a living being, they have a brain, and some days they are just like us. They have a better attitude, they're in a better mood than other days, right? So some days they are more cooperative, and other days they just don't feel like it. And, you know, and that's, you know, the day that they woke up, I guess, you know, on the wrong side of the bed. But we need to understand that for the horse to, you know, to be more cooperative, we need to send, you know, the horse's good, correct signals, right? Because what happens is, how do messages get sent and to make the horses actually move, you know, to the left, to the right, do a barrel pattern, or, do a reining pattern. What happens is the message is going to leave our brain, travel through our body, right, via the nervous system, and it's going to be sent to the horse somehow, right? And then, you think that this sounds easy, but the majority of the message is going to be sent to the horse's mouth, right, and to the horse in this area here of the horse's body, right, to pretty much his mouth and the side of his body. And then he has to translate whatever he's receiving and then figure out what you're asking him to do. And of course, a horse that's well trained, sometimes, they are going to know more than other horses. And sometimes horses that are really, really well trained, unless you do absolutely with perfection, they're just going to say, I have no idea what you're asking me to do, so I'm just not going to do anything. Or they're going to say, listen, I have tried everything. Clearly, you don't know what you're asking me to do, so I'm going to dump you, right? So I guess if you have been around horses a long time, those things have happened to you, right? So one of the things for us to think about when we are riding the horse is about our own posture, okay? Our own posture. So the human posture is determined by, how easy it is, the proportions of the body, if you're symmetric or asymmetric. And I think that this is one of our most important item here, is your mental disposition, okay? Natural symmetry, some people are more symmetric than others, but the truth is we are generally heavier or more dominant on the right side or on the left side, right? So we can be stronger on one side and the other, so we can ride a little bit crooked, or we can ask a little bit stronger on one side than another. For just as an example, I am right-handed, but for some reason I grab my rein with the left hand stronger than with the right hand, and I think it's my body trying to compensate for how weak my left hand is. And so my horse generally is trying to kind of turn to the left a little bit. I'm like, oh no, I'm not asking to turn to the left. What are you doing? It's because I brace more with the left hand than with the right hand, because my right hand, and my entire right body side of my body is stronger. But when I put here that the mental disposition, it means that you can see this guy here, what he's doing, what he's sitting, or when we're tired, we just slouch. When we are, happy and preppy, we just carry ourselves with some levity. Or when we're angry, boom, 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 right? And our posture is going to be determined by how we are feeling. So that's why it's important that when we are going to decide to ride our horses, that we change whatever it is. If we're angry at something, if we're upset at something, that we can mentally, get rid of whatever is upsetting us, or, work through it. But when we get to our horses, we need to give them the benefit of having us not angry, because then we just become a little bit too short with them, and we are impatient for something that is not their fault, right? So balance can be learned. Everybody has parents that say, sit up, sit straight. But it requires practice to maintain, okay? So everybody can learn balance, but you have to practice it all the time. In general, we start sometimes sitting up, and then slowly we go like this, right? And then we have to remind ourselves again to sit up again. And so it's something that we have to practice all the time, because the default sometimes is to just slouch. So the humans, okay? We have the capacity, so our hands, as something that's holding the rein, we have the capacity, right, to grasp, to grab. We're born with that capacity, but we have to learn most of the time to release, okay? So releasing is one of the most important things when we are riding horses, because when they give, they need to receive a sort of release. So it's important to have what we call like soft hands, light hands, that when the horse tries to do something, so it's something that you have to practice. You can actually practice this at home. You can have like a rope, okay, and you can have another friend or your parents hold one side of the rope, and then you pull, and when and they pull back and they brace back, and you continue to pull, and then when they give, you release. It's something that you can practice this multiple times a day, and then to learn how to be quick to release. And obviously, if you're riding a horse, you're not going to release completely, right? Because you don't want to give the horse and just lose control, but it's, you know, the soft release that we have. We can obviously sit up or we can slouch, and the success for riding is going to depend on our ability to give and take, right, with the reins, to grip with the thigh, and to press with the heel of our feet, right, to brace our back, so if you want the horse to move, under us, like how we, like we press our stomachs in, we engage our own bodies and our back, and also relax it. And this is important too, our ability, come back, to solve problems, okay? So when we are trying something that's not working, we're thinking we're doing the right, asking the right questions to the horse, and he's just not responding, we need to be able to solve the problem. What am I doing wrong? What is happening here? And a lot of times when we're learning to ride, you have a coach, right? So hopefully you have a coach that will say, hey, do this. And then when you do, and the horse changes, the way that he's going, you start to learn that when the horse does this, this is what I have to do. It's a lot of times it's easier, not a lot of times, every time it's easier for somebody from the outside, that somebody that's on the ground, watching you and telling you, hey, sit up, you're leaning forward, you're leaning back, put your legs, lower your heels or whatever, right? The other thing that we use, so we use our body to ride horses. The other thing that we use, we also are going to use equipment, right? So these equipment, they have to fit these horses well, so they don't impinge and don't prevent these horses from receiving whatever signal you're giving to the horse. So you're going to see here, like, and this is, just an English saddle, but you can see how the saddle is going to have different of what we call trees, right? Or this is a gullet of the saddle. And depending on the body of the horse and how well these particular muscles here, they're called the longissimus, how well these muscles are developed is how the saddle needs to fit the horse, right? And this goes the same for English saddles, for Western saddles. They have to sit, they're going to sit on this back of the horse, and they need to clear the withers of the horse, at least 4 fingers up there. But something like this may clear a lot, the 4 fingers up there, but maybe too tight over here, pressing over here. When we ride with something that starts to press, we need these nerves to be, because all these messages are sent via nerves, right? To the horse's brain, if you guys remember, from our brain to our nerves, from the horse's nerves to his brain, and then to his nerves again, so he can move. If we have damaged nerves, we're going to have damaged muscles, and saddles that are not fitting well will damage the nerves, okay? Saddles that are too tight, for example. Shoes or no shoes, that's a lot of the times it's just a preference, or if the horse needs to be shod because his feet don't do really well without any shoes. But what is important about shoes is that you need to, have a good farrier and give enough support for the horse. A horse that's unshod, that doesn't have shoes, his feet is going to move more naturally than a horse that has shoes on. But some horses need shoes, some horses may not need shoes. But when shoeing, if you see here, this shoe here is too small for this particular horse. So that is, imagine you walking around with a tight shoe that you already grew, but the shoe didn't grow. And here's the problem of this is a shoeing cycle sometimes is 5 to 6 weeks. Can you imagine walking 24/7 with tight shoes that will not give So it causes a lot of pain. You are going to start walking funny. Okay, so that's a lot of horses that have pain. Sometimes the pain is responding in the back or in the buttocks of the horse, but the problem is actually the feet of the horse. That's where the source of the pain is, and he is compensating with other muscles of the body. So that's what I say in this particular slide here, is that horses with front feet, as you can see, there's like all sorts of connections that happen in the musculature of horses. So if the front feet are not well balanced, are not well protected, horses are going to start bracing and putting a lot of strain on the base of their necks, and they start holding themselves like this, and they start holding themselves like this, and then it's hard, and it's impossible for them to actually give and reach for the bit and then give and engage. Okay. Horses that then have unsupported heels on the hind feet, they are going to start carrying these hind feet, as you can see, under his body, as opposed to over here where it should be. Okay, so they will start carrying here to relieve some of the pain that they have here, but this causes all sorts of pains on the hind and musculature of these horses. So one of my horses here, until we figured out exactly the type of shoe that he likes, he would carry himself like this, and I'm like, okay, so this is, and it took several farrier visits for us to put the best, most appropriate shoe for him, because he's a big animal and he needs to have that support to help, him carry himself in the right position. Any questions so far, guys? If you have questions, Mary Jane, would you be able, if they have questions, would you be able to read the chat and then you tell me?
Absolutely.
So if you have questions, if you can write on the chat, then Mary Jane can ask, so we can, so I can answer. Okay, so you don't have to wait until the end to ask questions. So I put here the leg position of the horse, and I put here the bow and the string effect, the bow and the string effect. So horses in nature, they don't have a person sitting on them. Okay, they just can do whatever they want, and they can, move their bodies freely, right? But they don't have somebody on top of them. They don't have tack that may be, not fitting him properly. But one of the things that the ridden horse that has to develop is the capacity to carry a human on top. Okay, and this human is going to sit on the back of the horse, where there is like these long muscles. This muscle starts like by the tail of the horse and goes all the way to the end of the pole of the horse, the nuchal crest of the horse. It's the same system of musculature. Okay, so this is the bow and string effect. Is that if you imagine for an arrow to effectively hit its target, okay, to have any kind of power, any kind of correctness, the bow and the string need to be in tension with each other. They need to be taut. They need to be in tension, one pulling against the other. And that's the only way that the arrow can go where you want the arrow to go, okay? If we think that the person is the arrow, and this is the bow, the back of the horse is the bow, because if the bow is the hard structure, that's where the bones are, because the abdomen of the horse doesn't have any bones, right? But the back will have bones. And then the abdominal muscles would be the string, and they have to have tension in between each other to be able to be strong and to be able to keep the rider in the right position. When this system is not working, horses will hollow their backs, okay? And you will see like a belly, okay, like this. And there's all sorts of problems that can happen, including kissing spine, if you have heard of this disease, or even like a horse developing a low back, But another problem is that the chest muscles, the pectoral muscles will be in a lot of pain. So it's a horse that sometimes you're going to tighten the girth. They feel girthy, they turn to bite you because those muscles, to compensate for this weakness here, they start taking all the brunt of the riding, the pectoral muscles. So the correct bow and string effect will prevent the spine, and the other parts of the body of the horse from being jarred. So one of the things that's important is the position of our legs, okay? Because remember, it's the nervous system of the horse that then will contract the musculature of the horse, okay? So for you to make this horse lift his back, to make it strong, you have to pretty much tickle his belly, okay, with your heels, okay? And when you tickle with your heels, you are going to feel, or you can do this on the horse that he's not mounted, go in his abdomen and do this to his abdomen, and you will see him lifting his back, and sometimes he'll lower, not sometimes, every time, he will lower his neck also. Just lowering the neck is not necessarily going to lift the back, but when the abdomen gets lifted, the back gets lifted, and the horse lowers his neck, right? So depending on what you are going, where this heel ask is going to happen, is the area of the body that will be signaled. It's the area of the body that will be stimulated. So a person that sits on the horse like this and signals this area here may have a more extravagant forelimb stride, okay? If you think about like people that sometimes ride saddle seat, if they don't have a nice, proper balanced position, and they will, if you think about those horses, they really have a big lift on their front feet, on their front legs, and the person sometimes rides, with their leg in front of themselves as opposed to their legs under themselves, right? So, and that's what I'm showing here. So this is a very extravagant, raising his leg a lot, but also a good posture means that you drop a pin from the shoulder to the hip of the person, and the heel needs to be right under, right? As close to this as possible, as close to straight as possible. And as you can see, this is not the case of this particular rider. So this looks to be obviously a great horse, and he's the first, winner of the class, first place winner. But it's not every saddlebred or saddle seat rider that rides like this. And you can see then in other classes, for example, this particular one, you can see this little kid sits much better than that one. So it's not, you don't have to ride like this. You can actually ride like this, even in saddle seat, okay? And so that's why I don't want to pick on any breed or anything, but you can actually develop a good posture regardless. That's a good example of the breed, regardless of the way that this horse goes, okay? So again, going back to, if the leg position is too much in the front, you're going to create a lot of front end movement, but the back of the horse is going to suffer. The back is going to become weak. If the leg, everybody has been in this position sometimes when you're afraid of your horse and you start to brace and you move your body forward too much and you move your leg back too much. This is, the horse puts all his force on the forehand. And this horse then becomes unbalanced, and there's too much force happening on the forehand of the horse. And the horse is already heavier on the front half of them than on the back half, because they have a big head that puts a lot of weight on the front end. But that's why when you're riding the horse, you want them to shift their power from the back, right? You want the horse to drive from the back, because that's where all the bigger muscles are located, and that's the driving force of the horse. But when you tip forward like this, and we have all been in that position, in that we start to brace and we tip forward, or we're just like trying to make the horse go and we tip forward, we naturally put the horse on the forehand, and this rider is actually very unbalanced. When you ride like that, you're unbalanced, and anything that the horse does can actually unseat you, right? So it's important that you ride more in the middle like this, right? So this particular horse here, you can see that the rider is balanced, right? The foot is under the rider. There's going to be the abdomen is tucked in. The back of the horse is lifted. If you see the other photos, like there's all sorts of the back of the horse is not lifted. This one, and the power is going to come from the hind end of the horse, bringing those legs under the horse and moving the horse and helping the horse move forward. Like I said, for the horse in nature, he doesn't need to develop all these things because he's not carrying anybody, okay, on top of him. But what we have, there's another system of muscles called the serratus ventralis. And these muscles are, you know, they're connected all here. And they, when the hind end of the horse is pushing the horse forward, the serratus ventralis will actually contract and pull the front of the horse up to take the horse to the next stride. Okay, so they pulls the horse up to the next stride, and that works beautiful for the ridden horse. So when you do this, you're strengthening these muscles here and protecting the pectoral muscles from jarring. Okay, so this here is, I mean, this particular rider here, she is Olympian. She has won all sorts of Olympic medals, and this horse that she rides, he's retired now, but he, you know, also has won a lot of things. But here you can see her position, okay, that it's pretty straight, not necessarily totally straight. She's probably leaning forward just a tad, but you know, it's pretty much close to perfect what she's doing. And you can see how her horse has his back up, his belly is tucked, okay, even though he has his head, okay, that is on the vertical, you don't see tension on his neck, okay? So he is what we call balanced, and you can see how far his leg can actually reach under him is because he's being able, and you can see he's being lifted. You can see, like, remember I just said about the serratus ventralis muscles that are located here. If you think about this, as this part here of the body is moving the horse forward, you can actually see that this entire half of the horse has been picked up and is taking this horse to the next stride, okay? And when we think about, and I don't even ride dressage, but when we think about, you know, like a good posture, we're generally, or proper riding, we generally think dressage, and this particular dressage school here, which is in Vienna, and they have those Lipizzaner stallions, and you can see the posture of this guy, and how, you know, and how correct he is actually sitting. This is the first time that I see this photo, that I see that this guy here is not sitting very well. And you can see that the back of the horse is not elevated like it should be. It's not rounded. It's actually dipped. There is like a dip. And this is the first time that I noticed this on this photo. But when you have perfect posture like this guy, you can actually do a lot of things. So this is the Caprio. And you can see that this guy is performing this. He's not being unseated, and guess what? He's not even wearing stirrups, okay? And because his seat and his posture, everything is so balanced with the horse, he is doing this, what we call this, like airs above ground kind of movement, and he doesn't even need to have stirrups just because he's such a good rider. Now you can see this Western rider. What do we think of her? Somebody, what do we think of her? Do we think she's sitting well or she's sitting bad? Somebody tell me.
From the chat box, we have two people say well.
She's sitting well
And good. Yes.
and good. Right? So she is sitting well, right? So you can drop from the shoulder to the hip to the heel. And she unfortunately is also wearing red, so my pen doesn't show. But that's, so she is really, really sitting well. You can see the horse has his abdominal muscles tucked in. And you cannot see very well because the Western saddle is bigger, but his back is lifted and then he naturally will drop his head. Now, it's not every horse that naturally drops his head this much, but some will do, and some sometimes are forced to do it. Then this is another one. So that's what I'm saying. You don't even have to be sitting, right? But this rider, obviously her shoulder is not, on a straight line, but how do I know that she's balanced? She is balanced because her heel and her hip are under each other, right? So her heel is under her hip and she is balanced. And she sits like this, obviously, so she can help the horse move forward that way. How about this guy here? Is he sitting well or not? Right on the chat there, if you can.
Eric said her horse's back was down. We have a sort of, a yes, a no, no, bad, a well.
He's sitting pretty good. He's a good rider. So he is just maybe older, but this is not even older because this is Clinton Anderson. He's a great rider, but he is sitting actually well. Maybe his foot is a little bit more to the front, but the horse is using his back muscles. You can see that his abdominal muscles are very contracted because you can see the contraction line right there. So he is definitely using his abdominal muscles, and you can see how his legs are reaching very well under this horse. But this particular horse, naturally, and also this horse here as compared to this other horse, this is at the walk, and this is it looks to be cantering. So in the canter, the horse will actually lift his head more to be able to get more impulse, right? So now he's sitting well. And then when we look at this person here, what's happening here?
Bad posture.
Bad posture.
The leg is not straight.
Okay, the leg is too far where?
Feet are in front.
Yeah, so the leg is too in front, right? So if you think, should pretty much be there. And I can see a horse like, can you guys see me? Hello?
Yes.
You can't, my Zoom here said that my Zoom quit. And I'm like, what? It doesn't look like I quit, but okay.
It paused for a second, but you're back now.
I'm back, okay. So does this horse, you can see this horse here, does this horse here look like he is bracing, or does he look like he is soft, what we call like a horse that has like a soft look to him? Nobody's answering?
Soft. Sorry, I
Soft.
thought I had muted.
So he looks soft, right? It doesn't look like he's bracing anywhere. How about this guy here? You can say,
She should be right back on. So just sit tight for a second. Oh, here she is. Yes, we can hear you now.
good Lord, there we go. So you see my Zoom did quit. What is this? Let me see here. Okay, so you can see how this horse is bracing. Another thing that I see too, that to me looks a little bit bad, is how much padding is happening for this horse. So this horse may have some back pain, and the person to try to adjust for that seems to be putting a lot of saddle pads under there, thinking that that is going to resolve. That's not going to resolve. What's going to resolve is a better posture and a saddle that fits the horse. You can see that this is one saddle pad, okay? You don't need to have like 3 inches of something under the horse, okay? If you ride well and if the, the saddle fit. This person wants the horse to go forward very fast, okay? And is this, do you think that this person also wants the horse to go forward very fast? Who do you think is accomplishing a better, a horse moving forward fast, right? Doing this, you can see this horse, has his ears back, his nose is just like, what the heck is going on with this? So it doesn't matter your discipline, you can actually sit better, and you will see. This is a very busy rider, right? You see, like in barrel racing or in speed events, the faster riders are the quietest riders. They ride quiet and they just allow the horse to move, and they don't keep. This puts a lot of mixed signals to the horse, and she's just riding with the horse just like because he knows he needs to go fast. But she's not helping the horse move forward with with purpose and with and to like be fast. Does that make sense, guys? It does. So I want you guys, next time that you go to and see like barrel racing or to see any show, I want you to see and start judging how these people are sitting. And then and sometimes when the way that people sit on the horse, it's not something that the judge is necessarily judging unless you're in an equitation class or in a horsemanship class, but the way that you sit will actually make your horse move one way or another. And if the judge is judging, whatever it is that the horse is supposed to do, if you sit bad, your horse is not going to perform well, right? And then when we are talking about then a horse that's being on the forehand, sometimes some people try to people think that a horse being supple is what we call, or soft, they need to turn their heads and to give their heads. And this, I see a lot of all sorts of trainers that crank and put very harsh bits to make the horse turn his head. One thing is, the head being bent doesn't necessarily mean, or doesn't mean that the horse's back is strong and arched, okay? Just bending the neck doesn't mean or the head at the pole doesn't mean that, because if you do it in the wrong way, you will put a lot of pressure on the base of the neck, and the horse will protect his back, and he's going to tense his muscles, and you will see this as a dip as opposed to being round, okay? And this was going to prevent the horse from engaging. The leg of the horse is not going to reach all the way to where the leg can, this is a bad foot, the way that the leg can reach all the way under the horse. And you will see a very tense musculature in the horse. So you can see right here, you can see that you see how this horse is going to look choppy. You can see here, he is not round right there. And you can also see this horse, and I want you guys to start developing, a sense of paying attention to the way that the horse's eyes move, their mouth, their ears. You can see that this horse you can see he's bracing over the neck. You can actually literally see his neck is bracing and is tense. Okay, you can see right here the amount of tension that he has, and also you can see that he is hands on his eye. This is not a horse that's moving well. Same goes for this guy here, and this is actually a mare. You see, very underdeveloped back muscles. There is a dip there. There is a lot of tension in this neck. You can see that this neck starts to become overused. the horse is looking down here. That's not where a horse should be looking. The horse should be looking forward, okay? But with the neck bent this way, there is no way for the horse to be able to even look forward, right? So that's why we're talking about this. So by lifting, so that's what I mean about the abdominal, the abdominal sling or the bow and string, is that when you engage those muscles, everything lifts. And because that abdomen is lifted, it opens a lot of space for the hind legs of the horse to come under his belly. So his back is going to be more rounded, his abdomen is going to be lifted, his leg can come under him, and that prevents, because the majority of lameness actually comes from the front feet, right? And when you ride bed and when you ride horses in the front on the forehand, you are jarring those front feet even more. And that is no bueno for these horses. What else do I want to say here? That's just a photo. Then there's this group of muscles, and we have them too. They're called the PSOAS and ILIOPSOAS, and they are muscles that are under the spine, okay, in the loin area of the horse. The longissimus muscle sits above the spine, and these PSOAS and ILIOPSOAS are muscles that actually are connected underneath the spine and the hip. And when they are working correct, they contract and allow the hip to move forward. The hip will flex. If you think about this hip here moving forward, bringing the hind leg under the horse. So when you start riding these horses, you need to be careful not to jar on the loin of the horse, not just because of the long muscles of the back, but also these muscles under the spine of the horse. So they are able to move the hind limb under them. Okay, so the best thing to do when you're warming up your horse, I mean, after the walk, but never ride, even at the walk, like slouched. Ride correct, ride with like purpose, right? Like pretend there is like something pulling you from the sky, and ride with purpose, even at the walk. And then when you start trotting, you need to be able, to post to allow, so you don't jar when these muscles here are still cold, okay? So that's important, to be away, to not to be on the back of the horse. Then if we're thinking about the downward transition, so that's transitioning speeds or transitioning gaits, say from the canter to the trot, from the trot to the walk, from the walk to the stop, and depending on the discipline, sometimes it goes from the canter to the stop, say a reining horse. What should we do with our legs, right? Because we're talking about when we're riding, we're all the time stimulating the horse's, torso with our legs to maintain our bodies up. When we are trying to make the horse transition down, do we think we need to press more our legs or release more our legs for the horse? And then when we press more and pull somehow so he can slow down to transition, or do we add more leg, maybe add more abdomen so the horse can slow down? Which one? Press or release?
Release. Everyone's saying release.
And that's the problem, guys. You need to press, because when for the horse to slow down, his hind legs still need to come under him. Okay, when we release, this is what happens. Okay, the horse has no support. When you continue to ride well, when you continue to press, he will maintain his roundness. This horse is not round. Look at this. This is hideous, neck up. But when you continue to give that support to the horse, he's able to come under himself and transition down. So one of the exercises that I want you guys to do when you are riding your horses is, when you want to transition down, say from the trot to the walk, I want you guys to add leg to this horse, okay? Now, some horses, and when you add leg, they want to speed up. So this is like after you have taught the horse that adding leg doesn't necessarily mean speeding up. It means lifting your body, okay? So I want you to add leg and tense or tuck in your abdomen, okay? I want you to tuck in your abdomen with your back, right? So think yoga, right? Or think Pilates, that you're tucking in and see what the horse will do, even if you're not pulling on the reins, okay? So I want you to maintain your leg, okay? Give leg support and tuck in your stomach and your back to see what the horse does, okay? Because horses, they are like this because they like that signal, okay? So the take-home message for today is we need to work on our posture. We need to think about what we're asking the horse to do and ask in a way that's clear for the horse to give us an answer and be consistent, okay? So this here is just right. So it's a person that's jumping, and you can see how, you know, his heel, it's still under his hip, and so he has good posture. And you can see this is him jumping. He's jumping without any saddle, without, hold on just a second, guys. I'm gonna make dinner here soon. Please don't eat that. Okay, thank you. And you can see him, look how tall this is. This is like a 4.5-foot jump, maybe 5-foot jump. And he is all bridleless and, you know, and saddleless, but he has good posture. Now, this is not obviously super fair to put, you know, this particular photo because this horse, you know, has left this kid behind. But you can see how she is being left behind, and her leg is actually not, you know, under her body, and this horse is bracing. He doesn't have, you know, a good bascule, which is this movement here. He becomes shallow, he braces, and this goes, you see this here used to be my student, and now she's my vet, but you can see good bascule, good position, okay? You can see this one. This was also one of my students. This was my mare. I want you guys to think, this horse here, is this horse engaged, or is this horse putting a lot of strain on the forehand? What do we think about the position of this horse?
Strain. Someone said it looks fine to me. Strained.
Okay, yeah, so this is like something that you guys need to look. So yeah, so for this horse is at the walk, okay, but you can see how her, and maybe you can't see well, but her back here is not rounded. Her back is not rounded. Her back is, it's dipped, okay? That's one thing. Her leg, this is a big horse. Her leg, even at the walk, should actually be all the way here, should not just be over here, okay? Yeah, so her neck, her head is looks a little bit strained. And what can you tell me about the position of the rider?
Jaden says it looks fine. Anna says she's too far forward. Eric says not great.
So yeah, so her hip and her heel are right, but her shoulder is leaning forward. She's looking down, okay? And by just doing this, you put your horse on the forehand. You make the horse heavy on the forehand just by looking down, okay? So don't look down, look up, look straight, look towards the world, not towards the sand. You make the horse, when you look down, you make the horse look down, okay? So this is not the greatest way to ride. And this is the end of our presentation.